Coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
I'm Wanye Reese. Here we go again. VCU is thinking about going up on tuition for the next academic school year. Coming up, I'll tell you how much a VCU student may have to pay.
I'm John Hood, and coming up, I'll tell you how the Southern Environmental Law Center says their fight with Dominion Power over pollution in Virginia's waterways isn't over yet.
I'm Coley Carey. Coming up, I'll tell you about ShotSpotters, a gunfire detection system that's making its way to Richmond. All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Alex Johnson.
And I'm Daniel Mattoon. Thanks for joining us.
Listen up, students and parents. You may have to start digging deeper into your wallets. The VCU Board of Visitors is proposing a 2 to 5% tuition increase. InSight's Wanye Reese is standing by in the newsroom with more on this developing story. Wanye?
Thanks, Alex. That's right. VCU just raised tuition last year, and they're thinking about doing the same thing for the next academic school year in order to cover a more than $8 million funding cap and to fund a 3% faculty raise. I was at the first Board of Visitors budget workshop where they talked about this costly issue. The VCU Board of Visitors are trying to close an $18 million funding gap, which may mean a 5.3% tuition increase for students. Carol Gray, VCU Vice President of Finance, told the Board of Visitors the harsh reality the university faces.
This year, we're going in with a $7.8 million problem. $6 million of that, it's really $8 million, but we're netting out some new money we received from the state. Will be a permanent cut as we go into the next fiscal year.
VCU President Dr. Michael Rao also made his point clear of the uphill battle the university faces.
In fact, among the four-year institutions, we serve the largest number of in-state students. We are a destination for in-state students, and we're very proud of that. We are also very largely dependent on an appropriation that has had large cuts.
VCU student Jacob Parcell, who serves on the budget committee, says the university has to raise tuition.
I see that we almost don't have a choice in order to keep on functioning as a university.
In addition to a proposed tuition increase, housing rates, dining plans, and also parking rates may go up. If a 5.3% tuition increase is approved, an in-state student would pay $696 more. The VCU board is not expected to vote on a tuition increase until at least mid-May. And with tuition constantly going up across the country, New York is helping out its residents. They recently passed a new budget that is going to give free tuition starting this fall for working families and middle-class families that make less than $100,000. And make sure that you tune into our next episode of VCU InSight, where we will have an exclusive one-on-one interview with VCU President Dr. Michael Rao. For now, sending it back to the newsroom, I'm Wanye Reese, VCU InSight.
Thanks, Wanye. Richmond police officers are always looking for ways to connect with the community which they serve. They say it's important to show children that their city is more than just crime and arrest, and build a relationship of trust between families and law enforcement. Their most recent event, held at Blackwell Elementary School, allowed officers and children to hunt Easter eggs, enjoy lunch together, and strengthen community relations. If you'd like to get to know the Richmond police officers better, you can check out their official Facebook page for a look at what events are coming up. Richmond Police Department is getting a new weapon to fight crime and put an end to gun violence. ShotSpotter is a gun detection system that will soon make its way into one of Richmond's high-crime neighborhoods. InSight's Coley Carey tells us how this technology can help make our communities safer.
It's time to fight back.
ShotSpotter is a technology that traces the location of gunshots using microphones and camera surveillance. According to ShotSpotter's website, when shots are fired, sounds are picked up from sensors located on rooftops and light posts. Then, GPS data pinpointing the location is sent to police dispatchers, along with a recording of the sound. From there, police analyze the sound and respond to the scene. The plan to bring ShotSpotter to Richmond comes at a time where police are working hard to decrease violent crimes. According to Deputy Chief Steve Drew, there were 60 homicides in 2016. That's a 20% increase from previous years. Chief Drew says that even one homicide is too many.
There's nothing worse than knocking on the door and talking to a mother at 1, 2 in the morning and telling her that their son or daughter has suffered a gunshot wound or, God forbid, has died of a gunshot.
According to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the plan to install ShotSpotter will pause the department's recent push to install body cameras on all officers. VCU doctor and violent crime expert Robin McDougall says this is a fair trade and believes it will help decrease gun violence. Some Richmond residents disagree and question the effectiveness of the system.
Okay, there was a shot fired, but by the time you get there and commute and do everything to get to where the shot was at, they're on the next block shooting.
The plan to implement ShotSpotter technology in Richmond is still being discussed by city officials. In the meantime, Richmond Police encourages all community members to help put an end to gun violence by reporting any suspicious activity to the police. This is Coley Carey reporting for VCU InSight.
To learn more about ShotSpotter technology and the cities that use it, visit shotspotter.com.
In Henrico County, residents living in the Essex Village housing complex say they're fed up with the living conditions. According to Henrico County Deputy Manager Douglas Middleton, since 2012, they've been working aggressively to resolve the complaints and improve conditions at Essex Village. In November, a comprehensive inspection conducted by Henrico County found a staggering 140 cases of code violations. In response, a report called the Quality of Life Improvement Initiative was prepared for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. However, one resident who didn't want to be shown on camera said the improvements are a long time coming.
They're trying to step on it now, but I believe that it's a little too late for that because people have been living under these conditions for almost 10 years now, and it should have been happening, quite frankly.
And in an interview with VCU InSight, Deputy Manager Middleton said there still are citizens and they're entitled to at least having acceptable quality of life. So our goal wasn't to try to create problems for anybody or for owners or management, but to make sure they were in fact being held accountable for the standards of quality that we have for structures in the county.
A day after President Trump launched missiles to an airbase in Syria, students came together at the center of VCU's campus to stand in solidarity with Syria. Student activists from various groups, including Amnesty International, gathered to protest the recent American airstrikes and the use of chemical weapons deployed by the Syrian government. Event organizers were encouraging students to sign petitions against the attacks on Syria. Organizers say they ultimately want Richmond to be a sanctuary city for all people, including refugees and undocumented people. Rally organizer Marina Pugh says student voices are vital to their anti-war efforts.
We are the youth, like our voices are always heard. We're millennials, we have social media access. We have been known for stepping up and making these huge waves of changes.
If you're interested in getting involved, visit amnestyinternational.org to learn more information.
Last show, InSight reported on a lawsuit by the Sierra Club against Dominion. Tonight, InSight's John Hood tells you how this could be happening in Chesterfield.
Located near the lower part of the James River lies the Dominion Chesterfield Power Plant, a coal-burning power station that provides electricity across central Virginia. When the coal is burned, the waste is then stored in Dominion's ash ponds, and according to Nate Benferrato at the SCLC, the waste from the station is actually harming the river.
The problem at Chesterfield is coal ash. Coal ash is what's left over when you burn coal. And there's about 13 or 14 million tons of coal ash at Chesterfield in 2 large unlined ponds. But when you do that, you have a lot of groundwater problems. And so we have unlined pits full of coal ash which contain heavy metals, and it's contaminating the groundwater, and then that groundwater is going directly into the river.
According to Benferrato, an SCLC testing done within the past year, the red soil that I'm seeing in here in Chesterfield is being caused by contaminants such as iron, arsenic, and other lethal metals that are leaking from Dominion's coal ash ponds into the James River. Robert Richardson, a spokesman for Dominion, says Dominion will no longer have to rely on the ash ponds in the future.
We're going to stop that sluicing process with the wet ash and the water going to the ponds. We're going to stop that, and the ash will be taken over by truck to a lined landfill. And so that will change the process that they use here at Chesterfield, and at that point, in the fall, we'll stop using the coal ash ponds.
Although, Governor Terry McAuliffe has made an amendment in the General Assembly that would prevent Dominion from giving permits to close ash ponds before the site is assessed. For VCU InSight, I'm John Hood.
The SELC says they have been testing the water for the past year, but Dominion does not recognize their testing as viable.
Governor Terry McAuliffe has vetoed more bills than any previous Virginia governor, and Republican legislative leaders are not happy. Governor McAuliffe vetoed 40 different bills during 2017's General Assembly session. And throughout his 4-year term, he has vetoed 111 total bills, and none of them have been overturned by the General Assembly. Speaker William Howell and other GOP House leaders say this new record is the disappointing result of 4 years of failed leadership by a disengaged governor. McAuliffe says that Republicans are simply playing politics and sending him bills that are unnecessary or dangerous. Coming up, VCU has an award-winning radio station. Find out how this student-run production is grabbing more attention.
And will you soon be saying goodbye to your textbooks? We'll tell you how one VCU professor might help make that happen.
WVCW, a student-run radio station, is bringing news, talk sessions, and chalkboard sessions to the airwaves.
They recently won 4 awards from the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System, and InSight's own Kelvin Mines is in the studio with the general manager. Kelvin?
Thanks, Daniel. I'm here with Alan Booth, the general manager of WVCW. Thank you for being here with us.
Glad to be here, Kelvin.
So WVCW is a student-run radio station. Can you describe how that works and how can students get involved?
Well, absolutely. So when we say student-run, we mean entirely student-run. Students are involved in every aspect of our broadcast, from hosting them to editing them and even managing the station. In fact, the only thing we don't handle is the money. And when I say the money, I mean directly, because we're still involved in selling underwriting and advertising on our station. Students can get involved basically just by showing up. In fact, that's how I joined the station my freshman year. Our programming director at the time, Darnell Myrick, was out at the SOVO fair and said to me, "You look like you have a voice for radio." I still haven't figured out what he meant by that, but I started coming to the station and I got a show, and from there I gradually worked my way up. The same is more or less true for people looking to join the station today.
Okay. WVCW recently won 4 awards at the Intercollegiate Broadcasting Systems Awards. How did that process go for being nominated, and which award was big for you guys?
Well, award submissions are always a bit of a stressful time of year for us. We have a lot of shows on WVCW. We have a lot of very talented people. So figuring out what we're going to submit is always a challenge, and then editing it down and getting it ready is even more so. We have a very small team supporting us. But once we figure out what we want to submit, we send it off to the judges and cross our fingers and pray for the best. And this year, actually, we won Best Variety Program for our chalkboard sessions, which are actually a new thing on WVCW. We started inviting local and traveling bands into our station's lobby and filming them as they put on a short, usually acoustic performance for us. So that was a really big win for us. And then our live mix show, which occurs Monday nights, the Monday Mashup, actually was a finalist for Best Celebrity Interview because they interviewed Dallas K, a DJ and producer, early last year.
Okay, and how can people listen to you guys, or where can they find you online?
Well, we broadcast 24/7 on our website, which is wvcw.org, and they can listen live on weeknights on 102.9 FM, which is based out of Ashland. And actually, we're exploring new ways for listeners to tune into the station. So hopefully by the end of this semester, we'll be rolling out an app. So students will be able to listen to us on the go, whether they're in Schaefer or at the Student Commons. They can just plug their headphone jack into their phone and listen to WVCW.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Calvin.
I've been speaking with Alan Booth, the General Manager of WVCW, sending it back to the desk.
Thanks, Kelvin. It's shaping up to be a national financial nightmare. Over $1.4 trillion is owed in college debt, and over 4 million students are in default. Being in default means the borrower has failed to make a payment in more than 270 days. Student loans are the only type of loans that cannot be forgiven with bankruptcy, meaning damaged credit scores, money taken straight from your paychecks, and increased legal fees. Under President Trump's student loan plan, monthly rates would be higher, but complete loan forgiveness would occur after 15 years, according to studentdebtrelief.us.
And more financial woes for students as the cost of college textbooks has spiked nearly 90% over the past decade, according to the Consumer Price Index. But one VCU math professor is saving students millions of dollars. VCU InSight's Ryan Karstens tells us how online textbooks are threatening publishing companies.
It was fun to write, but really the best thing
Textbooks are actually outpacing even tuition at the rate that they're increasing. They're actually increasing more than I think any consumer good in the nation.
But VCU librarian Hillary Miller says open source textbooks are a legitimate competitor to the textbook industry because students are learning better without having to buy overpriced textbooks.
When students use open or more affordable materials as opposed to high-cost textbooks, almost 9 times out of 10, I think 95% of the time of studies that have been done, students have had either the same or improved learning outcomes.
VCU professor of mathematics Richard Hammock published his own free online textbook called The Book of Proof, which focuses on functions and proofs for students who couldn't afford one. And he says his book is being used at numerous colleges internationally, including Brazil, the UK, and South Africa.
I would say maybe I'd estimate 250 to 300 universities around the world are using it.
Now, according to the National Association of College Stores, the average college student spends about $67 per textbook. This one right here costs $266 brand new. But Professor Hammock's textbook only costs $25 for a hard copy and $15 for paperback.
What's shocking is how much money Professor Hammock has saved students worldwide.
I would estimate probably I've saved students a total of at least $3 million.
Hammock expects his second math textbook to be published in the fall of 2017.
The General Assembly refused $10 billion in federal funding to expand Medicaid in Virginia, leaving up to 400,000 citizens without health insurance. Governor Terry McAuliffe's most recent push to help insure Virginians was shot down by a party-line vote in the House of Delegates during a special session last week. Republicans voted 66 to 34 to stop McAuliffe's proposed budget amendments. The new budget would have gone into effect on October 1st. Republicans say they are willing to fix the current system through a new joint subcommittee, which will monitor changes in the Affordable Care Act at the federal level. Since 2007, VCU tuition has risen nearly $7,000 for in-state students, according to the VCU website. As prices go up, the amount of federal loans taken out follow. Tiana Mosby has more on how VCU students are paying the difference.
When I was a server before, they never really cared about really going to school. It was like, you need to be here and serve the restaurant guests.
According to collegefactual.com, about 25% of students are working full-time while attending college full-time. VCU's Brian Nicholas from Career Services says about 70% of students work while they're in college.
For any student, it's finding that balance, and that balance that works best for them.
Ben Burstein says balancing the two is a little easier because his job is flexible and willing to work with his school schedule. He says he balances his time by only working a few hours during the week, then catches up on work hours on the weekends. His job also helps him pay for college by offering tuition reimbursement.
While I'm lucky enough to have a job that can pay my way through school, other students who don't have that are going to have to look for other resources elsewhere.
Having a job isn't the only option. Some students apply for scholarships, grants, and financial aid, while others rely on their family to help them afford tuition. Many websites and apps, such as scholarships.com, offer grants for students to help pay for college. With VCU InSight, I'm Tiana Mosby.
If you or your child need help paying for college, check out the app Scholly.
Still to come,
2 more VCU basketball players are leaving the program. We'll tell you why.
And relations between the U.S. and China are getting closer because of language. We'll show you just how.
We've never been very good at sitting still. Maybe that's why we built our campus in the middle of a city. Why we put our classrooms on riverbanks, in Fortune 500 companies, even on stage. At Virginia Commonwealth University, learning happens everywhere. What matters most is how you make it real.
The ongoing global refugee crisis has left millions displaced across the world. Hiba Ahmad is in the studio with VCU professor Hi-Yo Jim, who's been working with these refugees and has brought her research here to VCU. Hiba?
Thanks, Alex. I'm here with Professor Hi-Yo Jim from the School of Social Work. Thanks for joining me, Professor.
Thank you.
So, again, with my first question, I was going to what exactly did your work with refugees and your research look like? Just describe that for me.
Yeah, I tried to fill the gaps in refugee mental health services and psychosocial support. Refugees went through tremendous trauma and numerous challenges, but it's not really met during and before and after resettlement. So we try to develop some more capacity building in the community so that they can provide more culturally sensitive and relevant services to refugees. So I developed basically training to intervention, so starting with the capacity building, but also provide some community-based psychosocial support system. So that's basically my work.
Great. Can you describe some of the situations that these refugees are fleeing from, and how exactly that can possibly be damaging to their psyches?
Yes. So, as you know, refugees are defined as those who fled their home country in the fear of persecution. So they actually left home country forcefully, not voluntarily. So the causes of the refugee situation, as you know, is war, social conflicts, torture, even human rights violation, basically. So people actually had to leave their home country and then cannot be protected by the government. So I think it's a basically humanitarian issue, and as a global citizen, I think we have to really look at that kind of situation. And of course, that really affected refugee mental health and other kind of parts of the life as well. So according to the WHO, actually refugees experience overall like 50% population experiencing mental health issues.
Sounds great. What responsibility do you believe that the more developed nations, including like the United States, what kind of responsibility should they take on when it comes to this issue?
Oh yeah, I think actually that we can look at some global context of refugee situation right now. Actually, majority of refugees are now displaced in low or middle income countries. Maybe that surprised some people because we believe that we actually take a good leadership role in the international society. But actually, the refugee resettlement program, for example, which is the way we bring people to the United States, it only covers less than 1% of refugee population in the world. So majority displaced in the really low settings, suffering from actually numerous challenges in silence. So I think that's what we need to really look at.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Professor. I've been talking with Professor Jim about her work with refugees. Let's send it back to the desk.
Thanks, Hiba. Just 2 days after former VCU basketball head coach Will Wade announced he would be leaving for LSU, 2 of VCU's top recruits requested release as well. Recruits LeVar Batts and Mayan Kerr will not be attending VCU in the fall. Kerr was expected to be a key player for VCU as a freshman, according to A10 Talk. 2 other recruits, Sean Mobley and Marco Santos Silva, have decided to recommit despite the change in head coach. Senior forward Ahmad Hamdi will also receive a release to explore transferring, but says staying at VCU is still an option.
Last week's tornado warning didn't keep Flying Squirrels fans from coming out to support the team on opening day. The Richmond Flying Squirrels opened up their new season with an 11-1 victory over the Hartford Yard Goats with a strong pitching performance from Dan Silva. The team also welcomed their new manager, Kyle Haynes, who, according to the official site of minor league baseball, is the youngest manager to ever lead the Flying Squirrels. Squirrels fans were excited to be a part of opening day and another season at the Diamond.
High energy, we're back in it. It's great. So great for Richmond to have this stadium here. It's beautiful.
And other highlights from the game included a first pitch thrown by three-time MLB star David Justice.
Dr. Christine Darden, one of the human computers featured in the novel Hidden Figures by Margot Lee, spoke at VCU last Friday. The appearance attracted such a massive audience that the fire marshal ordered many people to leave early on. Darden says her character didn't appear in the Academy Award-winning movie, but the women who were featured made her career possible.
In the book, I am cast as standing on their shoulders because they did their work so well. We were still being hired, and I was able to get a job at NASA myself.
Darden began at NASA Langley in the late 1960s as a data analyst, but became one of the only female aerospace engineers after she asked for a promotion. She spent 40 years at NASA and is known for her research on sonic booms. Darden's visit was sponsored by the Department of Mathematics, African American Studies, and Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies in the College of Humanities and Sciences.
Can you speak Chinese? More and more Americans can. And did you know that English is becoming the second language of China? InSight's own Hui Zai, a member of VCU's Global Media Scholars Exchange program, shows us how language is becoming the key to overcoming cultural barriers between China and the U.S.
The Virginia Commonwealth University School of World Studies hosts about 115 students learning Chinese, with several hundred others in Richmond and Williamsburg learning the ancient language. Students and community members fill a classroom every Monday through Thursday to learn Chinese and the country's ancient culture. The class is open to all Richmond locals and has been around for over 2 decades.
This class is divided into 2 sections. The first section is about Chinese culture. Now we can see so many American students practice very traditional Chinese culture, calligraphy.
Students and Richmond locals not only learn about calligraphy, but also songs, festivals, and customers. Abigail Bram has been studying Chinese for 2 years because her parents adopted 4 children from China. She says she wanted to be able to communicate with them.
I wanted to learn Chinese so I was able to speak with them, with my new younger brothers and sisters.
7,000 miles away in Wuxi, China, English is being taught as a required second language, just as many of the school textbooks are also written in English.
I have a crush. I have a crush. So the meaning of this is to have feelings for someone.
I'm Hui Zai for VCU InSight.
Does it for this edition of VCU InSight.
Make sure to check out our website at insight.vcu.edu.
You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under VCU InSight and contact us with any stories you'd like to see on our show.
And if you missed our show or would like to watch it again, you can find us on YouTube at VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Daniel Mattoon.
And I'm Alex Johnson. We'll see you next time.